Explain the entire journey of the events. So Bowser started limping. He was not himself. He was still eating and using the bathroom normal. And mind you, this was about 4 or 5 weeks ago. 4 weeks ago. And so we took him to our vet up here where we live in central Michigan. And we're like, hey, he's got this hunch in his back. He's got a temperature. He's limping. He's really favoring. He's lethargic. He's not acting. They're like, well, it's either Hod's disease or another like bone disorder.
Basically a bad case of growing pains for a puppy.
Basically, it's one of the two things of growing pains. And so they did x-rays and they're like, well, it's not really prevalent that we see here, but we believe that it's Hod's. So here, take these gabapentin and this anti-inflammatory. The anti-inflammatory is really going to help take away the pain. And that's what's going to help Bowser Boy. And so we come home, we give it to him, and fast forward 8 days, and he's not getting better. He's really lethargic.
Hold on, though. In the meantime, they had called me twice to check in on him, and I kept saying, he's not getting any better. Like, he still seems like he's in a lot of pain. Okay, give him another dose of gabapentin. So do it 3 times a day. Okay, go ahead.
So he's not getting better. He's still feverish. He's not being himself. He's barely playing, barely moving. Again, super lethargic.
Not eating well.
Yeah, and so Danny gets home on a Friday from work, and she calls me frantic. She's like, Brandon, he's got like a softball-sized mass on him. Like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to leave work here in a little bit. And like guys, like the size of my fist, like a softball size mass
came out of nowhere
on the side of him. And I'm like, so we come home and we're figuring. I'm like, all right, well, I took my pre-workout. I'm like, I'm going to work out. Let's kind of see what happens. Let's give it an hour. So I finish my workout. I come up and Danny's like, no, Brandon, like we need to go. So like we text our vet because our vet has like a text line this is still prior to 5. And they're like, well, it could be a bee sting. It could be a bug bite. It could be something. Just kind of monitor it. And if you're overly worried about it, like rush him to like an emergency vet.
And they gave me a list.
Yep. So guys, if you're new in here, please hit that follow button while we're continuing to tell the rest of Bowser's story. And so we...
Now, again, I want to be like, at this point, I'm not being too judgmental on my vet because they're not a 24/7 vet. Okay?
Correct.
They're just a primary vet office.
And so then at this point, we called the Midland vet office and we're like, hey, this is what's going on. They said he's got Hod's, something's not right. Like the symptoms are getting worse. Everything's kind of just bad with him right now. He's got the softball. Well, Midland's like, okay, we are an emergency vet. However, we do not have experience with Hod's. Like, we are kind of like a smaller 24/7 emergency vet. Like, this sounds like too of an extreme case for us to deal with. So we're going to recommend you guys to take him to MSU because they have a lot more resources. They have basically everything you need is right there.
And 9 times out of 10, they would have transferred us to them anyways.
Correct. And so that was Friday night. Yep, that was Friday night. So I think we had to hurry up and rush the kids
to my sister's.
To your sister. Like, her sister came and got the kids, and the kids stayed with Danny's sister. And then we went to the vet at MSU, and they ran a gambit test, and they lanced open the side, and they drained out the fluid because they, like, again, softball-sized mass on his side. They drained out the fluid, and at this point, we were at the vet from about 10 o'clock at night, and no, we left earlier.
8.
We got there about 8 o'clock at night, and then we were there until 3:30 in the morning, and that's when they were running out. And they're like, okay, we're gonna keep him. At this point, we don't know what it's gonna be, and so they call us back the next day, and they're like, hey, this is a massive infection, and the only way to heal this infection is with surgery. Exploratory surgery, because through the CT scan, through everything, through the diagnostics, the x-rays, they're like, we can't find anything in there that's causing this. So we're going to do exploratory surgery just on his side, and then we're going to have to go into the chest cavity.
So they put like a decent size, like opened it, looked around, flushed it, looked around some more, flushed it. So ultimately they were looking for a foreign body. We never found a foreign body.
Correct. And so then they do the first surgery. He's in there for 8 days. He's got 3 drain tubes. They tried to put a 4th drain tube in on his opposite side, which is where he had to have surgery. Now, his blood pressure tanked.
He bled.
So they had to abort that mission. They had to give him blood pressure medications to stabilize his blood pressure. And at that point, we're like, damn, like, okay, this is... Like, he could have died, like, when his blood pressure tanked and everything kind of went bad there.
Got a little scary.
So then at that point, they kept him, and we visited him every single day, all but one. So we drove down there an hour one way to visit him for like 10-15 minutes for like 3 days in a row, then missed a day, then Danny went, and then he came home the next day. So
2 days.
At that point, we talked to the vet, and we're like, hey, so we talked to MSU's team, and we're like, hey, so he was previously diagnosed with Hodg's disease from this disorder. And so Danny requested all records from our previous vet at the other entity, at the other vet's office. And so they emailed Danny over all of the records on Bowser, all of the x-rays, all visits, all everything that they have on him. They sent to Danny. Danny forwarded it to the doctor. And so then
they pushed everything to MSU radiology. Again, specialists, not even doctors, not even surgeons, everything to the special radiology department to review.
And so the big thing with MSU is like nobody oversteps their specialty. So like if x-rays are done, the radiologist reads it. If it's something with growth, like a biologist reads it. Like they fully like let the experts of that entity focus on it to where like,
and then they come together.
The primary vet like looked and she read the radiology, or she read the x-rays herself. And so then
something. So if you don't know what Hodg's is, guys, it is a radiograph diagnosis. So if it's not on the x-ray, it's not a diagnosis.
It can only be diagnosed through x-rays.
Only way.
And so then they sent it up to radiology. And then at this point, we've now had to rush Bowser back to the vet a second time. And Danny's like, Brandon, something's not right. He's hot to the touch. Like he's not feeling well. Like we got to take him back. And so.
And wasn't it that left side started looking?
Yeah. So the left side was now bloated versus like the right side, which he had surgery. And it was looking really weird. Again, lethargic. He started doing the hump in the back again, just kind of really difficult. So those that are listening, if you're new in here, please hit that follow button. We would greatly appreciate that. We're working on some goals tonight. Hit that follow button. Continue tapping that screen. We would truly greatly appreciate all that love and support, guys. And we will get to all the comments from everybody after we're done sharing Bowser's story. So then they called us and they're like, okay, we need to go in for a second surgery. So mind you, he has incisions side by side that are probably 2 inches apart. Wouldn't you say?
Can I pause for a second? So guys, prior to this, we had kind of explored options with Dr. At. So our current surgeon right now did the second surgery. And initially they had talked at one point going in through the chest.
And like cracking the full chest cavity.
Cracking chest, wide open, taking bones, separating, and really diving in. However, when they did the CT prior to that second surgery, it was found on the outside of the chest cavity. So they felt that they were in a safe place to not open the chest, which made the surgery less invasive, which we were like, yes, beautiful, let's do that. So they did a revision of the first surgery on the right side because there was fluid starting to build up in that area, put a drain back in, and we thought we were okay.
And so then at that point, when we talked to the surgeon and they said help me out. The radiologist said that there's no indication that Bowser has Hodg's disease. But what happened is that he had this initial infection when we took him to the vet. So for 8 days, he had an infection that went untreated with no antibiotics. So that infection actually went septic. And
he was septic in his chest.
And that's what caused so many of the increased problems. So part of us wonders to this day, like if they would have, they said that they should have ran labs when he went there the first time, and they didn't run labs because the elevated white blood cell count would have noticed that right away that he had an infection. So because they didn't run labs, it caused a lot of this to increase. So if they were to run labs, started him on antibiotics, I don't know if all of this would have been prevented. Who knows?
Or would it have been a milder case? Would they have gotten us to MSU quicker? Like, these are the what if questions that
could have been prevented at this point. So then on Saturday, we went and got him. He had been out of surgery for 1 day.
This last Saturday, guys.
Yep, we went and got him. He was home for about 18 hours. We were actually live Sunday, and during the live, like Danny's like, he's hot to the touch, like something's not right. He's hunching. He's refusing to get off the couch. Like if you brought food to him, he'll eat. But everything, like he's regressing and kind of going really downhill.
Really fast.
And then like we thought maybe he had like a growth on the left side again, and like we're just kind of really not sure what's going on. And like Danny's mama gut has been like, I've trusted her this entire time. She's been right about everything. So at this point, I'm just kind of, she's like, Brandon, we need to do something. So she calls the vet. Then the vet says, hey, if the fever is over 102, like you guys need to bring him in right now. So Danny runs to Dollar General and buys a thermometer. And if anything knows about dogs, like you have to do like a rectal probe through that. So Danny's just about just to shove this thing in there.
At this point, I didn't care.
And I'm like, no, Danny, like you have to put some kind of lube or something on it to like ease it for this dude. And so she takes his temperature and it's shot right up to like 103, 104, 105. So 105. And so like we're live and all of a sudden I'm just like, fuck. And Danny, you could hear her yell in the background, end the live, we got to go. And so we ended the live. Like I had to go throw the kids in the car. They were sleeping because they were ready for school.
My mom had been on live to figure out that something was wrong. So both of our phones were being preoccupied. So she calls my work phone as I'm at Dollar General going, what is going on? And I'm like, I don't know. He's running a fever. She's like, I'm jumping back onto live to know if I need to get my house ready for your kids. Like, so she was already aware.
And so like Danny's like, yep. So after we took the temperature, Danny's mom's like, I'm up, just come and drop them off. And guys, throughout this whole process, like her sister and like her sister and her brother-in-law and like her mom and dad are just amazing people that really have helped support us throughout this, like with taking the kids whenever we need to run Bowser to like the vet. And it always seems to be at night. It's never early in the day when it's convenient. It's always late at night on a school day. And so then we took him down there. We were down there for about 3 hours. Like the moment we walked into MSU, one of the doctors is like, hey, is that Bowser? Like, again, he's like famous there. And we're like, yes, that's Bowser. She's like, oh my gosh, let me take him back right away.
Like we didn't triage him.
Like we didn't even like check in yet. And like they already had Bowser taking him back, looking in to see what was going on. And then at that point, like they did a few different things and like, okay, we're going to immediately start on saline and antibiotics to kind of help reduce the temperature. Because at this point, his temperature is 105. And so then they called Danny the next day and they're like, yep, we did. They'd end up doing a CT scan. They found like basically.
So they wanted to do, so when we left, they had talked about doing the CT the next day. But when I had talked to the surgeon that did his second surgery when she called me back, and she was, I mean, devastated that we were back so soon. She goes, I really want to get in and I want to do a CT of his abdomen and his hind legs. They were looking for a few other things that we hadn't. So they were running some additional infection panels. They were checking for like tick-borne illnesses. They were checking for bloodline infections.
So hold on. So then at this point, Danny calls me and kind of starts telling me stuff. She's like, this could be a bloodline infection and it's uncurable. And like he's going to die. And like it was like that realization of like this dog may not come home. This member of my family member.
And like say it like that.
It absolutely just like destroyed me. And that was the only thing I could hyperfixate on was at that moment of like this could be a bloodline disease that we can't cure.
Right. And ultimately, like the surgeon wanted to be realistic with us because again, we've asked her to be. We've had some very difficult conversations with her about the reality of the situation of we don't know if we can fix this. We don't know if we're going to find the infection. We're going to do everything in our power to do that. But she kept going back to, I don't know. And so when she was kind of like, he could have this infection and there ultimately can't figure it out. It was like the reality of like.
And we had already had the conversation with the surgeon of like, what is the quality of Bowser's life? Like he's just turned 5 months. He's had now multiple surgeries. He's been poked and prodded. What is the quality of Bowser's life? Are we putting all this surgery and stuff? Are we doing this for us? Or are we doing this for him? Because at what point like is his quality of life come into it? And like it's always the white elephant in the room is the money that it's going to cost. Like nobody really wants to talk about it. You can see that the doctors are uncomfortable talking about it. We're uncomfortable because again, at a certain point there has to be, eventually we'll run out of money. The reality is the reality.
And the way that offices work is you can't just charge it. Like you can't just.
And so it's just like, you're trying to process all this stuff. And then they call back, was it yesterday or 2 days ago? And they're like, he needs a third surgery and they're going to do it on the opposite side. And then they're going to put a drain tube in on the opposite side. And guys, we got 116 friends in here, which is probably the most we've ever had. So if you haven't done so, please hit that follow button and head over and watch some of our.
Let's just note that for a moment.
Head over and watch some of our videos. As guys, we truly love and support this community and everything that you guys have done for us. And so they recommended a third surgery. He went through the third surgery. The drain tube's in there right now. They said he's doing very well. But it's just again, hurry up and wait because now we've done this 3 times. This is the third time surgery. this is like tomorrow, most likely we'll be able to bring him home. Like they kind of said we could take him home today if we want to, but we they want to be super cautious, so they're going to keep him the next day. But if we really wanted to go get him, they would be been okay with that. But like, no, at this point, like he graduated from like the Cadillac of boxers to like a BMW, and now he's a Lambo. Like we're full on Lambo at this point. This dog cost more than my car, to put things into perspective. And so we're like, nope, we want to be cautious at this point. And so we might be able to go get him tomorrow. It might be around like 11. It might be 6 o'clock at night. It just kind of all depends on like our schedule. We have to figure that out.
And the key is like, we need to make sure he's on the right antibiotics. Like that is the key. So the one thing that was different about this surgery than the other two.
Oh yeah, this is big.
When they got into the left side. So there was the fluid pocket with the infection. But they also found a very dense fibrous spot of something.
Tissue. So the doctor explained it. The best way we can explain it, and correct me if I'm wrong at this, is that dogs have this really neat thing in their body that if a foreign object enters a dog's body, basically the tissue they
start building to,
and
like,
they build
protect
tissue around that, and they trap whatever that object, that foreign body is, into the area. So they said that there was significant tissue built up by this back rib on his left side, and so they had to cut out that tissue. And then they sent that tissue in for biopsy to kind of see what caused that. And they said it's very normal for like if there's a stick in there or a piece of grass or whatever it is.
It could be something as stupid as a piece of grass seed. Like at this point, they have no idea, and we may not never know. But she's like, it was reassuring to find this. She goes, we may not know what it is.
She's like, because this is the first time that starts to explain something. She's like, because stuff on the other side, nothing was ever explained. But this starts to explain something of what's going on.
And what she truly feels is this was all part of the first mass. And did it potentially, and again, we will never know, did it break when they were doing the flushing and the irrigating and migrate over to a nook or a cranny in the other side? And it ultimately was just left.
And she said...
And it smoldered.
Yes.